Israel is emerging as a major energy producer after reporting some of the world's biggest discoveries of offshore natural gas in recent years. The Tamar field, 25 kilometers offshore from the southern city of Ashkelon, began pumping gas last March. On its own, the field, which is being developed by Delek, an Israeli company, and Noble Energy of the U.S., will contribute about a percentage point to Israel's GDP growth this year.
As far as Israel is concerned, it has a vast impact on the Israeli economy. Only this year, the Tamar production has had a 1% impact on Israeli GDP. On top of that, has obviously other implications on Israel, including the ability of Israel to reposition itself from a geopolitical point of view.
Delek, Noble, and their partners invested $3.5 billion in Tamar. They built the rig in Corpus Christi, Texas, and tugged it here to the eastern Mediterranean, where it pumps gas from about 230 meters under the sea. But this is just the beginning. The two companies also have rights to a much bigger, yet-to-be-exploited, offshore gas field called Leviathan. The two companies describe it as the industry's biggest deep-water gas discovery of its kind in a decade, with reserves worth some 19 trillion cubic feet.
The big new natural gas finds will profoundly impact Israel's energy independence and promise to bring in some $60 billion in export earnings over the next 20 years. They could also profoundly transform political relations in the region, depending on where Israel chooses to export the gas.
While Tamar is being reserved for Israel's domestic use, Delek and Noble want to export much of the gas they produce at Leviathan. The two companies are looking at possible pipeline projects to Turkey and from there to Europe, which is looking for alternative sources to Russian gas. The two companies are also studying possible pipelines to Jordan, the Palestinian Authority, or even Egypt, whose own gas industry has been sabotaged since the beginning of the Arab Spring by militants in the Sinai.
There are currently many opportunities for exports, including regional pipeline sales, including floating LNG, which is offshore LNG, and the more traditional onshore LNG, which could be onshore facilities either in Israel or in Cyprus, where we have another large discovery.
But the gas bonanza is stirring controversy too, as Israelis argue over how much should be exported and at what price. Benjamin Netanyahu's government in June said it would reserve 40% of Israel's natural gas for export, keeping the other 60% for domestic use. Members of the left-wing Labour Party, who led an unsuccessful Supreme Court challenge to this decision, want more of the windfall to be used at home.
The whole discussion around natural gas was made behind closed doors. It was made in secret. The government decision was made like that, in a rush, influenced tremendously by big companies with great lobby groups, and we have to make this decision transparent to the public because it's our gas and it's our money.
Israel has passed a law setting up a sovereign wealth fund to use the gas revenues. But economists warn that the country needs to spend the money wisely in areas like education rather than white elephant prestige projects that do little to advance the economy.
So the sovereign wealth fund that I'm all in favor to do it, in my mind, should be used primarily in order to foster and deepen our natural comparative advantage, which lies in our human capital, innovation, and creativity. We shouldn't be tempted into other nice-to-have needs.
Meanwhile, Israel's antitrust watchdog is studying Noble and Delek's powerful position on the gas market to see whether it violates the law. The companies are impatiently waiting a decision and say they need certainty before moving ahead with Leviathan.
Regulatory certainty is a must in order to justify investment of $5 to $15 billion. We'll need to have tax stability in place. We'll need to have export stability in place.
While the deliberations continue, the gas has begun arriving in Israel, and the Middle East has a new regional energy power. John Reed, Financial Times, at the Tamar gas platform off southern Israel.